All right, yes, indeed, it is once again time for the Kanika Lifestyle Podcast, and this is our Oak Island Weekly Edition. I haven't titled this episode yet as we record it, but I will come up with something good because this was a history lesson episode, if I must say so myself, combined with some money pit drama and some nails.
Some nails?
Some nails.
Discoveries?
They nailed it. I mean, a time period is sort of coming into focus. The 1720 to 1760 time period seems to keep coming up, right? Like it lines up with Duke D'Anville from last week. That was all in like the 1730s, 1740s.
Predates that, but yes, this is the consensus.
We got into some wild rabbit holes this week with the Knights of Malta. Oh boy. And then the books. The books are courtesy of John Edwards and Scott Clark. And apparently they were on an episode last year. I probably watched it and I just don't remember it right now. But the messed up thing is they bring this like map that is supposedly in one of these books into the equation that like really looks a lot like this cubby hole thing we've been seeing that they dug up in the swamp. And I have questions. I have lots and lots of questions. The most pressing question I have now is why can I supposedly buy this book on abebooks.com right now for less than $300? Like,
is it a one book or is it
the whole genuine works of Flavius Josephus, the learned and authentic Jewish historian and celebrated warrior, translated from the original Greek according to Haverkamp's accurate edition in 4 volumes?
Okay.
This is published by Cool and Blackie and Company, which is like literally the same thing I'm looking at in this book that's shown in the show. These are like I see Blackie, I see these names, Glasgow 1812. Now this one says Glasgow 1820 / Edinburgh 1820. So
those are copies of the original.
I again, not 1812, but we're talking 8 years apart. Like, how different did it get back then with how fast things probably did not change compared? I know today we can just update an article and be like, updated.
Yeah.
But back then it was like literally printed and you couldn't update things willy-nilly. Like, it was a huge cost endeavor on your company to change a book probably.
Well, it will be most costly in time. Because then you had to physically go to the printing, change the letters, and slap a new ones. Is that how it used to work?
Well, I'm not an expert on 17th century printing methods. However, if I had to take a guess, I'm assuming they would always have a master template that they would make copies from, right? You wouldn't hand draw letters every time.
Oh, yeah, they would have set, masters.
Yeah, you would have something that you can make a copy of. At some point, they developed printing and copies, right? Like for mass distribution. And this is one of those copies, I would assume, of this book. And it's just really old, and we don't know how many copies are still in existence. But I guess I'm just wondering why these two guys come in acting all smug with a book that you can apparently buy for less than $300. Like, what's so special about their book version? I know it came from a private collection, so that's worth noting. But like, what is so special about their copy of this book that's not in this one that I could buy for $300? Like, could I start combing through and call Rick and Marty and be like, hey, I bought a copy of this book on Abe Books, and I found some stuff that they didn't bring to light. Can I come on the show and talk about it with you guys next season, maybe?
Does the book has some ciphers in it, or is just the works of the guy, the historian?
So that was a weird one. Like the connecting of the dots these guys are reaching for is just bizarre to me. Like,
you gotta put a tinfoil hat sometimes on.
And you do, but yeah. So their private collection book, maybe that's what makes their copy unique. Is it has certain letters underlined.
You know, the margin writings,
and it had symbols and stuff in the margins and like of a menorah and this 8-pointed cross, which is just basically a cross that it has like distinct points kind of
A Templar cross.
Yeah, if you look at the traditional Templar cross, it actually has 8 points on it. It has 2 defined points on each end of the 4 legs of the cross, if you will.
It's widening on the top.
It widens at the ends and makes a finer point. Then the Knights of Malta got introduced during this as well. And I looked up their symbolism online after the show because they're now called the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. And their flag is actually a white cross on a red background. So it's kind of inverted from an old school Templar look, which was a red cross on a white background. But I did find a references on a flag of a red cross on a white background, Sovereign Military Order of Malta. And it definitely has like this 8-pointed cross, which is way more defined. Like if you remember the old Pontiac logo, like how it was like a V shaped and it had like the dip in the middle. It kind of looks like that. But you don't see the defined point on the end. Instead, they all meet in the middle there and make like the cross lines.
Okay.
You'd have to see it, but you could definitely see how there's a correlation between this logo and the original Knights Templar logo that most of the people that are probably going to listen to this might be familiar with. So just some interesting digging online. I get curious after this every episode. We've been hearing names after name. Like I learned how to spell Duke Don V last week, which you gotta look that one up on your own. I'm not gonna get into it right now. I'm just really baffled by the fact that all of a sudden this book is emerging that has an exact map of Oak Island with this like mysterious cubby hole, hidey hole box structure that they unearthed in the swamp. What, 3 weeks ago for the first time?
But they didn't mention that they had this book first time when they appeared in the show, which was a few seasons back, I guess. They didn't have those books back then.
I'm struggling to remember it. It must not have left as much of an impression on me. And obviously I wasn't taking notes about the show back then.
True. But back then, maybe that whole theory went into the tinfoil hat category versus today, there's actually backing it because of the finds that they've been digging up.
Well, it's interesting. Their origins, according to Wikipedia, date to before Black Friday and everything we know about that. So whether or not their order merged with the Templars at some point, I don't know. But either way, what's a map of Oak Island doing in a book that was in Israel?
In a private collection with little symbols on this.
So we're going to get into all of that. You want to start going through the episode a little bit? Yeah, cool. So we had a quick update in the money pit at the start of the show, which was just basically a recap. And it was like a benchmark for where we were at 95 feet deep, the first target area. And we basically got this like excavation is proceeding. You know, they're sticking the case on down further, and they're trying to reach a depth of around 150 feet, as far as I know at first. But we quickly transitioned to the swamp area, and I quickly have to note because like Alex and Katya were at the digging in the money pit, and then it said meanwhile at the swamp, and it's like Alex and Katya were right there with Billy, and it's just kind of funny how they're everywhere.
They were bouncing around, that's for sure.
Hey, they are the future of Oak Island, season 23.
This is the next generation.
The next Oak Island, the next generation. I'm sorry, it won't be season 23. It'll be season 1 because it'll be a new show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Different title, new show, sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, and we are getting down to it, by the way. This 2 episodes remain after this one, according to the schedule. So we'll talk about that at the end, of course. But in the swamp, Alex finds some jug handle and a lot of broken pottery pieces are coming up here. We don't really see any of this analyzed throughout the rest of the show.
But they had a whole small plastic bag of pottery.
Yes, and they're trying to uncover more of the pathway.
The cobblestone?
Yes, and Rick comes by. Of course he does. He always shows up in the swamp, it seems like, and he's starting to see that they're going to need a possible new permit from the Canadian government to continue digging in the direction they want to go in the swamp.
It's always easy to say we need a permit, so we can't say anything else.
And we did not hear anything else about this. Really, I think the rest of the show, Laird didn't say anything about it.
Oh, he went to get the permit, most likely, you know.
He probably did, but we didn't see that interaction on screen.
That's going to take 5
After
minutes.
this, we went back to the money pit, and it was Rick, Marty, Alex, Alex bouncing all over the place, Scott, and Gary. Gary was back after missing last week's episode, everybody. Good to see Gary. Now, the caisson was at 110 to 111 feet here, and the grabber was pulling up lots of wood, short timber, and they found some wood that was using dowel pegs.
Can you
And another,
what that is exactly?
well, it looks like a method of like putting wood together,
Joining it together.
joining it and like,
Without the
locking it
nails.
without using nails. It was like just using carving in the wood to make it happen. And then one of the pieces had like 3 notches in it. They immediately jumped to the conclusion that it was a Roman numeral 3 because they, of course, have seen other carved Roman numerals in other places on Oak Island. So they want to believe that everything that looks like a Roman numeral is a Roman numeral. I don't know if this is a Roman numeral or if it's just notches for the wood, actually, but
That's something that carried over from previous episode.
definitely it is. And, none of this wood that they're bringing up is getting dated anywhere that I can see on the show at all with the lab or anything like that. So I'm kind of curious about why that is potentially, because like a lot of people have dug in these areas over the years, and this could just be wood that has from their expeditions that they keep hauling up hundreds of feet underground because how else does it get there?
That's a good point. I believe for the next episode, they will have some wood dated. I think that was at the end, but we get to it. So
All I got to say to that is it's about damn time.
No kidding.
Because we've been pulling up wood all season, it seems like, and we haven't really gotten a lot of analysis about that wood. Like,
No, but
don't you figure they got to hose it down though and stuff and like clean it off and like,
maybe they do before the tests.
that's what I mean. Like, don't you want to like let it dry and then like actually get it tested? But you would want to take like a power hose to that thing a little bit and like
Well, I
get
don't
all
know if you
the
can.
earth off of it.
Well, you dating the wood, you're not dating the dirt, I guess.
I mean, wood gets wet.
It was in the water already.
Exactly. So I just don't know like what power washing it would do bad to it. Like I would power wash it.
Yeah, I don't know what the process is.
Maybe I'm destroying it. Sorry, Rick, if your ears are crumbling or crying out for stop making my ears bleed. All right. Well,
But they thought the wood is original wood from the Oak Island that the original tunnel was built.
yeah, there does seem to be this belief that these are potentially the original wood pieces. If you remember the lore of the story, it's that there's like they found wood planks every like 10 feet digging all the way to a certain depth. I don't know how they dug this deep back then, man.
Where's the prototype? I've been asking about this.
I know. If this booby-trapped hole existed, I think you raise a great point, is that there had to be a demo somewhere.
I would imagine. How do you know if it's going to work?
Engineering, yeah. I mean, unless it's on Mars, like, and then someone brought the plans via spaceship. I mean,
Oh, maybe
There
that's why
has to-
Elon wants to go back.
yeah, maybe he's like, I need to figure out how to crack into Oak Island.
Potentially, sure.
Wow, you'll be a hero forever if you figure that one out. Hey guys, I found a lever back here. It's behind this boulder. It's been here the whole time. You just got to pull it and it opens. See, look, I'm a hero. See, just joking, everybody. Alex says this is the oldest wood that they found, and Vanessa informs everyone that they are now at 117 feet. As we turn the page and go to the war room, holy crap, this is where the big tinfoil theory hat of the week came in this episode. And boy, this was a long history lesson here, Nika. I wrote a whole page of notes here.
It was very interesting and informative. I don't care what people say. I
don't care what
wood.
people say either. Like, I find this stuff interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying this before we went on the air, and I'm going to say it again now. If you were to go down and wander down the street in any average city in the world, I'm going to say the whole world, and maybe outside of Israel, but if you were to go and ask, like, who is Flavius Josephus to random people down the street, like the Jay Leno game from the old Tonight Show, nobody would know who he is.
No,
They would say what you said. Oh, is that Flavor Flav?
because of the name. How
Yeah,
similar.
because it's the name that must be Flavor Flav.
Yep.
That's his real name, right? I bet you would get that answer before you got the actual real answer, which is like
The historian.
A Jewish historian and general who converted to Rome and became a Roman general and advisor to Titus, I believe, the Caesar.
Titus. It's very fascinating because you're absolutely right. Nobody would know unless you find a scholar somewhere randomly that knows history.
And he lived, by the way, from 37 AD to 100 AD and died at around 62 or 63 years old, they suspect.
So he had a good life, and he documented like the Jesus story, I guess.
Well, he mentioned Jesus twice, but he mentions it in accuracy. This is what he had to say about Jesus, if you're curious. He states that Jesus was the Messiah and a wise teacher who was crucified by Pontius Pilate. It is commonly called the Testimonium Flavanum.
It's a Testimonium Flavanum in Latin.
It says, Catholic. Modern scholars hold that the passage in its present form cannot be authentic. Most, nevertheless, hold that it contains an authentic nucleus referencing the life of Jesus and his execution by Pontius Pilate, which was then subjected to Christian interpolation and alteration. Wow. You don't say. The passage exists in all extant manuscripts of antiquities. And, you can buy a copy of his works even to this day that are translated for like $6. Josephus, the complete works, $6 used. Shipping is $5 within the United States. So $11 if you want to read more about Josephus and his works. Have at it. It's available for everybody.
That might be in the library too.
If you want to go find some hidden ciphers, I mean, they still got to be there, right? No, so those hidden ciphers were in French, by the way, right? Okay, it's time to get into this. John Edwards and Scott Clark show up, two of Oak Island's favorites. I'm being sarcastic because if you would go and look at the Oak Island Reddit and these two names come up, oh boy. Let's just say the fandom does not appreciate some of these wild goose chases and outlandish theories, things they consider outlandish. Now, I'm going to push back a little bit on this because whatever the hell this document is that they pulled out of one of their books, it sure as hell looks like Oak Island in the secret cubbyhole. And
it does.
So I guess I haven't seen a lot of like people mentioning this map, even in the commentary about how outlandish these guys showing up again last night were. And all the things they talked about in the pub in Canada in the 1800s that had a painting of the Templars and like this tent that had the Ark in it. Holy crap. Yeah, I just did say that, everybody. That's exactly what they discussed. And it is as tinfoil as it sounds. But
how did the map end up in the book?
How did the map end up in that book? I have no idea. And this was bought from a private collector, according to John Edwards, in Israel. So how did a map of Oak Island end up in a book in Israel
from
that
1100
was published in the 1800s?
I know, but the guy that wrote the book, he lived way
in
back.
37
right.
AD to 100 AD, like literally 2,000 years ago.
And he had a map of Oak Island.
Supposedly. I don't know. That's how they portray it on the show. I don't know how the hell this got in this, but I think this requires further examination. And like, I'm curious, like, how are you making this connection? So I want to see more about this, definitely. But it does seem like we're playing roulette again, not to steal a Josephus reference there.
Things you find out about that guy.
Apparently, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo comes from his books about how they used to kill people.
Yeah. Interesting. At least they were creative, you know?
Yeah, duck, duck, goose, everybody. Without the running around in the circle. You just got chosen and off with your head. But as I was explaining to Nika ahead of time, if you were good at math, you could avoid beheading back in the day.
You had to be quick on your toes for that one. Thanks.
Fred Flintstone reference. Okay, well, I've detracted enough from this. So they bring in these two books. One is Holy Week, which was published in 1763, and one is Flavius Josephus, the Complete Works, published in 1812. I was talking about it beforehand. You can literally buy this book from somebody in the UK right now for less than $300 and have it shipped to your address in the US. I'm awfully tempted. Anyways, this private collection has somehow, as Nika said, has a map of Oak Island in one of the books, and the map also appears to show this hidey hole, cubby hole that they unearthed in the swamp a few weeks back that we've been talking about. And boy, oh boy, that is fascinating, huh?
Well, they also mentioned that the book is referencing biblical treasure being deposited somewhere in Nova Scotia, which is the location of the Oak Island.
Yeah, and our good friend Doug was smiling in the war room when they were talking about, just how all of this stuff does seem to be lining up a little bit.
Sure. They mentioned that the Order of Malta, the Knight Templars, found Nova Scotia.
Okay, well, before that, though, they said that, so I'm also a little bit confused, and it looks like this is the case, that their book has markings in it that they did not put there of this cross, a menorah, and they're by certain passages in the book. And
The cipher.
There's also like letters underlined. And they come upon the name John Easson. I wrote this down, Easson, and he was a Freemason from Annapolis Royal, which is on the other side of Nova Scotia. It looks like 60 miles away or something. But according to them, this is more clues that point to Oak Island. Then they start talking about religious treasures, the Knights of Malta, who had a presence in Canada, apparently, that they were able to trace back a couple generations. I wrote down a name, Isaac, and I couldn't write down the last name fast enough. But one of these Knights of Malta was named Isaac, or he was part of a Freemason line that was also had ties to the Knights of Malta. And whenever you have Freemasons and Knights, you think of Templars. So it got everyone's head turning with like positive ideas about where that they could be looking for religious treasures. I don't know about that. I have no clue about any of that. When Rick started talking about this being a multi-generational treasure, I wrote down literally in my notes, like, this sounds so far-fetched. It sounds so far-fetched.
He mentioned that there was a multi-generational attempt to hide the treasure. How does that fit with the building a booby trap?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and where and when did the secret knowledge line end? Abruptly, or did some father not get to sit down with his son and tell him the tale of the Oak Island booby trap, and how it all was, and who the secret builders and plans were. Like, if you start showing me plans of drawings of like boulders, if you start showing me plans or drawings of wooden logs spaced out 10 feet apart from each other, 160 feet going down, and oh, by the way, at 90 feet, there's going to be a stone tablet on one of them. Like, then I might start
believing in
being
something.
in like, oh, like, let's read this book some more. Aside from all that, there is an important question in all of this, which is like, what is this map in this book? Is this like a piece of paper that was inserted in the middle of the book? Like, or is this an actual drawing on a page in this book? And is it in this same book that I can buy for less than $300? I want to know.
Or was that a page hidden in the book that somebody put that in the book?
Right. Or is this page exclusive to this private collector's copy somehow?
Well, then that
doesn't make sense, because it's still from the same publisher, according to what scans they're showing on the show itself.
Well, I guess we have to buy the book to find out.
I don't know. We got to give our listeners what they want, Nika. So we might have to do some of our own detective work in all of this. But oh boy. I guess the last thing to point out is that the Templar logo and the Malta Knights logo are very similar in history. I still think they need to answer for that map and what it is. And then also their addition with the ciphers. Is there a way to figure out when those markings were made, even, like,
or who made them?
I don't know if you could know who. You'd have to trace that copy of that specific book, and without knowing who the private collector even is, how do you do that? And if you don't know how they came into possession of it, you're never gonna know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a book that somebody in my family wrote lyrics to old folk songs in perfect cursive, by the way. It's
lost art.
Amazing. And it's really old. I have no idea exactly who wrote it or who did it, but it's amazing. And that's not even half as old as this book is. So these are delicate books,
Yeah.
You mentioned something odd to me, speaking of old books, that you just want to smell them.
The old books have a very distinct smell.
I believe that's called mold.
Okay, it is musty, so yes, it might be.
Nevertheless,
But because they are leather bound, so maybe that comes from that smell. I'm not really sure, but they have a very specific smell to it.
musky.
A little bit, yes.
Maybe you could make a cologne called Old Book.
For the nerds,
If you want to smell like that sophisticated gentleman who's been at the library all day.
I think old books are fun. I would love to rummage through some.
Well, I'm going to run out and make me a old man, old book scent, I should say, and slap it all over me for you, Nika. Then you can read me all day long, girl.
Oh, gee, thanks.
No worries. Well, that was fun history lesson here, and I think we covered most of the details here. But yes, what is this map, and where did it come from? And like, I just have lots more questions than I think answers they gave us, as they gave us this runaround history lesson, right?
It seems to be a reoccurring thing in the show as a filler. When something doesn't go as according to the plan, they bring up some researchers to spin out some theories.
Spin, 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 they do. All right, well, after the long history lesson, digging resumed, and then we quickly cut away to lot 5, where Marty, Gary, and Jack Beagley, the Mr. Happy over there, they were looking for stuff on lot 5. Gary had the metal detector out. Now, these flags were planted. I'm confused a little bit. Are these from the original dudes? Remember they were talking about like how there were notes that Laird has on file? So were they flagging these as other possible?
I think they were just flagging things that they need to scan with the metal detectors.
Okay. Well, either way, Gary, it didn't take him long. He found a nail or two actually, to be specific, 2 copper nails. They dig up here
That they need to analyze.
They literally, because they were copper, Gary immediately suggested that these were for ships because copper is it resisted corrosion, and it was used for like nails and wood on ships specifically because of salt water. And the high seas. And they were used as far back as 3,500 BC. I thought that was amazing. You know, not that these nails are that old, but damn, that's how long certain technologies lasted because of like just things you don't know. Copper is resistant to water. I guess it's probably resistant to rust, right? And corrosion.
If it works, don't break it.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Geez, something we should be learning.
All right. Well, they think that these nails could offer more clues into who built Lot 5. And in the meantime, back to the money pit, we're now nearing 150 feet, which was that target depth that we were looking at the beginning of the episode. And then we quickly cut to the lab again. There's all this drama around the money pit, and we'll get to that, obviously. But in the lab, it was Jack, Carmen, Emma, and Laird. So I thought it was really interesting after they found those nails that Marty and Gary were both kind of not here, because you would think that they would want to be curious about what they found. But Jack was there representing, and boy, oh boy, was he representing. He got roasted on Reddit for this appearance, but we'll get to that.
Jack did?
Yeah, and I'll get to that. But these copper nails were analyzed by Carmen, the smithy, and he says that they are sheathing sheets to underside of ships. So Gary was spot on with his analysis of what they might have been used for. And Emma's x-rays show that they have copper, lead, and arsenic in them, mainly copper, and it was dates them to 1720 to 1760. 75 years or so before the money pit.
So maybe that's the original builders of the money pit.
Yeah, this is an odd one because basically Jack then goes off on this tangent about the Knights of Malta to Carmen and Emma and
they all look
Laird, and he kind of got roasted for this on Reddit, maybe rightfully so. I mean, I think it's a little too early, but I think because that time period fits with the Knights of Malta time connections in the area, more so than the Templars, obviously, which would have been 300, 400, 500 years before that. Ay, Jack, you're killing me, Jack.
He jumped the shark a little bit.
He did. He I love your enthusiasm, but at the same time, you gotta gotta keep it grounded with Laird, man. Laird is like the eternal optimist.
Maybe somebody was telling you enthusiasm. We need
Well,
some enthusiasm.
I mean, like, Laird is gonna keep you grounded, right?
Well, I think that's his job.
Yeah, that's it. That is his job. Is like, I'm gonna question everything.
Yeah.
And yet you're over there spinning tales. I don't think he had the right backstory. Like, he didn't have the whole book in front of him with the
He did not.
ciphers in them and the weird symbols that were added after the fact. All right. Anyways, I wrote down that Jack called this a whodunit. Classic whodunit. If there is something buried here, then it will definitely have been a uncovered mystery, right?
Oh, yeah. And who done it?
All right. Well, back in the money pit, they're now at 160 feet, and the steel caissons hit a mysterious structure, ... and they don't know what it is. Then we go to the washing machine for a minute with Marty and Charles Barkhouse, everybody. And he's got a couple interesting things he wants to show Marty. One is this piece of leather. They think it's shoe leather.
Somebody lost a shoe?
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, it's black as dirt. And
Maybe it was a Roman sandal.
maybe, I mean, Flavius's? Maybe
Well-
Flavius made the journey. Goodness. They're going to get this analyzed, but not in this episode, right?
They did find concrete also.
Yeah, I wrote, they found a rock, and Marty right away with his background in construction and digging and engineering of big monster. He says this is concrete, and I believe him, you know? So that's kind of interesting, like man-made concrete underground. Now, again, this could date back to all these excavations of
Well,
money
Romans had concrete. They invented concrete back in the day.
and stone roads, apparently.
They
So
did.
there's a lot of Roman clues.
I'm telling you, it's a Roman sandal that got trapped when they were making concrete.
Yeah. Well, after this, we get back to the money pit, and finally drama reaches peak height because we've kind of had this countdown going all episode. If you notice, like they've been drilling deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're just waiting for the other shoe to fall off. And here's where it happens. Digging is abruptly halted when it looks like this whole drilling mechanism is about to cave in into a big sinkhole, right? And they stop and halt, and everyone's over there looking at it, and Rick's crawling under the machine, and it's like, what are you doing, dude? You want to be the seventh dude? You want the treasure to be found? I guess keep poking your head underneath the crane that's about to like completely collapse above you. Hey.
But to remember the whole area over there, it is packed with little holes in it.
Yeah,
So
this is a big concern for me specifically as a viewer. What is the plan if the whole thing just caves in? I mean, well, at least they'll be able to find it, right? Like, oh, there's up there was up.
we missed it by 5 feet.
We were 5 feet away the whole time. No, seriously.
But then if they do find something, would it be, if it caves in, it will just get covered up again? And how you dig that up?
I don't know. Maybe you get 12 army helicopters and lift it out of there.
If they do find
Where there's a will, there's a way, Nika.
yeah,
you know,
I know.
maybe there's a crane they can put on a ship and just dock it. And
That's a big ship, but I don't think there's enough water for that. Who
Well-
knows? You're right. If there's a will, there's a way.
they're definitely billionaires want to know what's at the bottom of Oak Island. I know it. There's billionaires listening to this episode right now. They're excited. The digging continues. This is where the episode ends, by the way. So they're gonna start backfilling in this hole.
They need a robot to go down.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. They're kind of stuck here though. This is where the episode ends abruptly, actually, in the middle of this crisis situation. So I'm sure we're gonna pick up next episode, and that got us into one of what's usually my favorite segment of Oak Island, which is next week on Oak Island, because you want to get excited. Oh, what's news going to happen? And the editing is just top notch here because it's always dripping with anticipation, right? But this one, I didn't really write anything down. It just looks like all this stuff is going to continue, right?
Yeah, 2 more episodes. So they either find something or they don't find anything till the next season.
Well, that is one thing I
What-
definitely wrote down on my search here because I was hunting, and you can do some hunting on the interwebs yourself. And if you type in Oak Island season 12 episode 15, because last night was 14, you will get an overview that's already been written that says new pathways discovered in the swamp suggest more activity took place on the island than ever believed. I did not get this out of the next time on Oak Island.
I thought the cave-in is gonna be more prominent because of the shakes that Alex mentioned.
Yeah.
They feel like an earthquake is.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, by the way. I skipped over that. My bad. Alex
okay.
was talking to his dad, Marty, and telling him basically that he felt like there was an earthquake.
Yeah, can you feel the
and tremors,
And living in California, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Exactly. It's like being in a wave pool on land without water.
Yeah.
But like you get that like kind of uncontrolled movement up and down on solid ground.
I'm surprised Marty didn't feel it, but hey.
Well,
was thinking
it does make me nervous for this whole operation. Like I don't want to see it halted for like this kind of reason, Like I want them to be wrong and not bring anything up more than I want them to be right and have this like sinkhole and never be able to dig it up or something happen. Like,
well, yeah, I don't want this whole operation to be a sinkhole and then some other crew has to come in and dig this crew out. That's a disaster.
Will Elon do it? Well, because he's rescuing astronauts, right? So maybe he can rescue the Oak Island people that are going to get trapped underground.
Yeah, he'll be the only one qualified to do it.
Well, Nika mentioned it. There's 2 episodes left. Oh, so new pathways discovered in the swamp. That sounds interesting. I want to know what they're going to find that leads them to believe that more happened on the island than ever believed. Like, what is that? That's dripping with
anticipation.
Potential. And after professional analysis, a gemstone uncovered on Lot 5 has the team believing that someone with great wealth was on the island. Now, they kind of hinted on this on the next time on Oak Island, but you really didn't get a sense for why they were talking about it. So this at least sheds some light into this, a is this going to be the same gemstone that they found last week? Or is this going to be a new one that's found next week that gets analyzed and has even more interesting data about who was there?
Oh, yeah. Is that going to be a new person?
Yeah. Is this someone with great wealth that is a specific person, or is it just a generic, it was someone wealthy if they had this?
Just have to wait and
Either
see.
way, if you mention wealth near any one of the big 3, Marty, Rick, or Craig, Jesus, look out, because they'll just get dollar signs in their eyes like cartoons and just follow you around. Hey, what do you mean? Tell me more.
Well, who said that they're going to pull up?
I don't blame them, but...
Did they say somebody said that they're going to pull up a chalice or something?
Yeah, Marty said, I think the next hand grab might be the chalice. It's like, oh gosh, man.
I hope.
Are the producers telling you to say it just like that? Because I don't feel like you really feel like that, man. I just wish there was a hair bit more of authenticity sometimes. Some of these lines seem so forced, especially from Jack this week with the Malta storyline and like the Smithy looked lost. He's like, bro, what the hell are you talking about, boy? Am I wrong?
He was in the inner circle.
And Emma's just smiling like, well, this was fun. Laird's like, Jesus.
What just happened?
Fun stuff on Oak Island, as always, everybody. Thanks for joining us and staying with us on this adventure. I'm excited to see what next week brings, especially more so after reading the description, more so than the actual trailer itself. Now, sadly, I do not get oh, by the way, this is called Channeling the Solution. That's the title of next week's episode. And then the final episode is called Open Sesame, but there is no description yet.
Well, I hope that isn't, because that just gives away the plot.
I mean, I hope it's exciting. I hope it's as exciting as we think. Now, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it does look like there is a description for the finale that reads, "Spirits are high and the fellowship is more hopeful than ever as the team digs into Aladdin's cave." This is one of their spots that they've marked on their big digging map. So,
okay, so they might find some kind of a cave and they have to keep digging because they're not going to find anything.
I want to remind everyone that these are specifically titled and described to make you watch. So don't get your hopes high that they are on the verge of making some fascinating discovery and are going to be all over like network TV after March 18th airs. But we'll be right here with you March 11th. So we got an episode next week, March 12th. Happy birthday to my middle brother, Tommy. And then the finale, March 18th.
Oh, you sure?
Yep. Positive. All right. Let's get out of here, everybody. It's been fun. I got more research to do on this damn book and whether or not I'm going to order it from London.
Oh, that's only in London, not Amazon?
No Amazon.
Oh, thank
It
goodness.
won't be here in an hour. That's a shame.
All right.
All right.
Have a good
See you next week, everybody, for Oak Island Weekly right here on the Kanika Lifestyle Podcast. And stay tuned because we got some more episodes coming out this week. And we have more sports episodes coming out on our sister show, the Kanika Sports Show. Please subscribe to all of our podcasts and channels. We really appreciate it. Even if you don't listen to every single episode, we know everything's not for everybody. We don't expect that. But we do feel like we have a lot to offer everybody through our various topics. Thanks again for joining us. We'll talk to you soon, everybody. Bye.
Bye.